I'm Julia Sondu, showing you where development is happening. Please come and join us. Burkina Faso and Russia's Rosatom sign agreement for nuclear power plant. Burkina Faso and Russian state nuclear company Rosatom on Friday signed a memorandum of understanding, MOU, for construction of a nuclear power plant in the landlocked Sahel West African state, Burkina Faso's energy ministry said in a statement. The nuclear power plant will enable the country to meet its energy needs, it said, adding that the agreement was signed by Energy and Mines Minister Simon-Pierre Boussim and Nikolay Spasskiy, Rosatom's Deputy Director General. The deal follows a request made by Burkina Faso junta leader Captain Ibrahim Traore to Russian President Vladimir Putin during the Russia-Africa summit in St. Petersburg in July. Traore, who seized power in a military coup in September 2022, has moved closer to Russia as its relationship with its former colonial power France sours, while Russia has moved to break Western isolation over the Ukraine conflict and expand its influence in Africa. The semi-arid country of over 20 million people has an installed power generation capacity of just over 420 megawatts. The country, like neighbors Mali and Niger, which are also strengthening ties with Russia, particularly on military cooperation, are struggling to contain Islamist insurgencies linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State. The MOU signed in Moscow on Friday does not give details of the proposed nuclear power plant, its funding, or a timeline for the construction. How Putin invited African leaders on July 27, 2023. The second Russia-Africa summit, a continent at a crossroads. Africa's representation in the summit can be hailed as a statement from the continent. Blind loyalty to one state is no longer the norm. From the 27th to the 28th of July 2023, the second Russia-Africa summit took place in St. Petersburg, Russia. Initially, the summit was scheduled to take place in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in October 2022. However, the summit got postponed, most likely due to complications emerging from the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Similar to the last summit, the agenda of this year's summit included technology transfer and development of industry and critical infrastructure in Africa, developing power engineering, agriculture and mineral extraction, and ensuring food and energy security. In the wake of the summit, ever-deteriorating food security was the key concern for African policymakers. On the 17th of July, nearly 1 year after it was signed in Istanbul, Turkey, Russian President Vladimir Putin decided to withdraw from the Black Sea Grain Initiative, BSGI. The BSGI was intended to ease the Russian blockade, thus allowing Ukraine to export grain to Africa. During the summit, Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi of Egypt, and 5 other leaders who were part of the African Peace Initiative urged President Putin to change his mind. But their request was firmly rejected. Instead, the declaration attributed the entire blame for the food shortages to Western sanctions. The BSGI was intended to ease the Russian blockade, thus allowing Ukraine to export grain to Africa. Definitely, the pledge from President Putin to deliver 25,000 to 50,000 tons of free grains to 6 countries, namely Burkina Faso, Zimbabwe, Mali, Somalia, Central African Republic and Eritrea, is encouraging for these poor nations. However, it will not be done immediately but within 3 or 4 months, which is too little for a continent of 54 countries. Decoding the summit's achievement. Africa presently imports 5 times as much as it exports to Russia, resulting in a $12 billion trade imbalance. Following the 2019 Russia-Africa summit, President Putin planned to increase Russia's trade with Africa from roughly $16.8 billion to $40 billion annually within 5 years. Instead, it is now stuck at approximately $18 billion annually, or about 2% of all trade on the continent. Moreover, 70% of the total trade is restricted to only 4 countries: Algeria, Egypt, Morocco, and South Africa. During the first summit, the organizers subsequently boasted of dozens of agreements that were signed, estimated at $15 billion, but according to some reports, most of those were memorandums of understanding, MOU, and not legally binding. Further, Russia's direct investment in Africa is currently about 1% of the total inflow. Indeed, Russia has waived off a large part of its debt to different African nations worth $23 billion United States dollars. This is almost 90% of the total African debt to Russia. According to President Putin, this leaves Africa with no more direct debts for Russia but some financial obligations. However, given Russian loans to Africa is only a tiny part, this will have minimal impact on this highly indebted continent. Putin added that his government would also provide over $90 million United States dollars for development purposes at the request of African countries. Indeed, Russia lacks the resources to compete with the United States, US, France, Germany, and Japan or China as a bilateral development donor. However, it does have some cards to play. Last year, it was Africa's largest source of fertilizer, supplying 500,000 tons. It is also a significant power in oil, gas, and mining. The arms trade is the most successful pillar of Russia's conventional trade with Africa, which is mostly managed by state-controlled Rosatom export. Currently, Russia accounts for 44% of major arms imports to the continent between 2017 and 2021, surpassing other major players like the US, 17%, China, 10%, and France, 6.1%. Alrosa, which manages diamond projects in Angola and is exploring possibilities in Zimbabwe, Rusal, which mines bauxite in Guinea, and Rosatom, which is constructing a nuclear power station in Egypt, are some other Russian companies with substantial interests in Africa. During the latest summit, Ethiopia and Zimbabwe signed nuclear development contracts with Rosatom. In addition to importing weapons, many African nations have hired Russian mercenaries. These Russian mercenaries in Africa work under the Wagner Group. On October 13, 2023, Burkina Faso and Russia's Rosatom sign agreement for nuclear power plant. Burkina Faso and Russian state nuclear company Rosatom on Friday signed a memorandum of understanding, MOU, for construction of a nuclear power plant in the landlocked Sahel West African state, Burkina Faso's energy ministry said in a statement. This is the end of our program today. See you on Intervlog same time tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates. Thank you for watching Intervlog. Thank you.